Welcome into a special edition, Asia, of Double Coverage. We've got Super Bowl Sunday content for you on what is a pretty interesting game so far. I would say it's been predominantly ruled by defense. And
not what I expected at all to see out of the first half of this game.
No, not at all. And honestly, when you look at Drake May and how he's played throughout the last postseason and then during the regular season, and you look at Sam Darnold's numbers and how good he's looked so far throughout the regular season and how much promise he's shown, these two defenses have stepped up completely.
They really have. And firstly, if you are joining us live on Facebook, we're so excited to be here. And thank you for choosing us over Bad Bunny. I know it's a tough competition to see who you tune into. So we're so grateful to have you along with us for Double Coverage. But 9-0 game right now. Seattle up at the half. And like you said, Michael, this is really a defensive battle. And it's really going to be interesting to see how things play out. Like you said, Sam Darnold, he's a better quarterback. He's been playing stronger all season long. And even at the half, he's leading in passing yards. He has 88 passing yards, Drake May 48. So definitely leading down the field. But for some reason, neither of these teams have been able to finish the job in the red zone or even move downfield close enough to get into the end zone. It's been a struggle, it seems like. I mean, 3 field goals so far for the Seahawks. At this point, I'm wondering if Jason Myers, their kicker, is going to be MVP of this game because it's really proved to be a challenge.
He very well could be. Also, another MVP could be the punters. We've got a combined 8 in this one. It kind of reminds me of that Rams-Patriots game of a few years ago. I believe that was 2019, where we had gotten from a Super Bowl with New England and Philadelphia. That was one of the best games that we've ever seen, to then a Super Bowl that was ruled by field position, punts, and last-second field goals. So this one, to me, is definitely one that is standing out. It also kind of reminds me, funny enough, of the last time this game was played here between Denver and Seattle. To me, it really kind of... It's got an interesting vibe to it. I like it when defense rules supreme because, a lot of the time you get those big guys, those big men making those tackles and stuffing running backs, which is what we've seen a good portion of this game so far.
Exactly, and it's exciting to see how both of these teams are going to adjust coming out the locker room because a lot's going to need to change if they really want to turn things around, and especially for the Patriots to get on the board. I mean, a talented team, so I'd love to see a more competitive game going down the second half. So it's definitely going to be an adjustment. They're going to have to learn what to do facing these dominant defenses because really defense is leading the way.
And I actually want to correct myself there real quick. Last time this game was played here, you had Denver and Carolina, so that game also not a very good one. Last time Seattle and Denver played, that was in New York, and that one was where Seattle's offense ruled supreme over Denver's abysmal defense. And that was one of Peyton Manning's forgettable Super Bowls. But Seattle, they put up a couple points in this one, and they've looked pretty good from a kicking standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. New England coming back into this game, and with a new quarterback, young guy Drake May, potential MVP candidate. There was some talks about that, obviously, with Stafford taking home the award. But May has looked pretty poised so far, I'd say, in this game. He's missed a couple throws, but he's looked pretty poised so far for his bright lights performance coming out there in Santa Clara and really trying to get something going for this team. They're down, but they're not out of it by any stretch.
Right, and I mean, it's so fun to see him runner-up for MVP, second-year quarterback. Right. He is playing very well for his age, and history is really on the line for him. He could be one of the youngest to win the Super Bowl, so it's going to be very interesting. There's so much to love about this matchup. Of course, for us Kansans, no Chiefs playing, but there's great storylines. I mean, for the Seahawks, Sam Darnold coming back, first opportunity to win this as a starting quarterback. He did win a Super Bowl as a backup for the 49ers, but this is his shot. This is his shot on a team that took a chance on him and is really fighting for him. And so I really want to see him be successful, and this team is doing really well. As far as the Patriots, it would be the biggest turnaround year ever, coming off a 4-13 season a year ago and now playing so well and making it this far to the Super Bowl. I mean, just great stories. Both coaches named Mike Vrabel for the Patriots, looking for his first ring as a head coach, but it would be his 4th ring overall. He had 3 as a player. And then Mike McDonald also looking for his first ever Super Bowl ring for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and you've got a kind of a battle between the running backs here, Ramondre Stevenson and Kenneth Walker. Walker obviously winning that with his 94 yards, and he's broken away for a couple of really nice runs through the teeth of the defense, but it has not resulted in any touchdowns for this group. So you're kind of seeing the guys trying to air it out a little bit, maybe getting a flag there to no avail. So it's ultimately the field position game right now. And I'm curious as to how different the second half is going to be after these two go in the locker room. But right now it's New England that's got to get the work done. And they've got, against that defense of Seattle, they've got some work to do if they're going to make those adjustments, Asia.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Keyshawn Boot leading the way for the Patriots receiving yards.
Right.
He's doing a great job, but, they're just going to need to make bigger plays, find their way down the field a little bit faster. It's a challenge right now for both of these offenses. So I think both teams are going to need to adjust, but the Patriots are going to have to make a bigger adjustment. I mean, having a 9-point lead at the half is very beneficial for the Seahawks.
Right.
And having an older quarterback and a quarterback who's been playing a little bit stronger through the first half,
right,
that's beneficial right now for Seattle. So, I mean, I already predicted Seattle to be potentially the winner of this one,
Yeah.
But you never know coming out the locker room what's going to happen, because 9-0 is still a pretty close game. We've seen a lot of huge turnarounds in the second half of a game with the stakes as high as the Super Bowl. So I think it really still can go either way.
And you've got Cooper Kupp right now leading the charge in terms of Seattle's receiving, 4 receptions on 6 targets for 44 yards with a long of 23. So not a whole lot going on there, but still an opportunity to him to sort of have a breakout in the second half. But New England's defense has really been keeping him in this game. The secondary play has been pretty solid. You've seen them break up a couple of deep balls from Darnold. And Darnold's a threat in his own right, and his storyline's pretty incredible too. We've brought it up on here a couple of times. Moving around, bouncing around. He was a backup in San Francisco. Now all of a sudden, he's playing in a Super Bowl. So this is not something he's quite imagined in his wildest dreams. In his late 20s with a shot to guide Seattle to a Super Bowl championship. And right now, he's in the driver's seat. Kicker's doing most of the leg work, pun intended. And he's been able to get them in good position to sort of get them on the board. So right now, who's going to be able to crack that end zone first? If it's New England, everything flips.
Right.
And that could be a possibility in the second half, knowing Vrabel and his ability to make adjustments.
And, for you viewers who are watching, there are actually a few local connections in this game that you might not know about. I know you mentioned one earlier with the guy from Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Tell us about
DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah, so he spent about a decade with the Dallas Cowboys, and he's a pretty easy name to recognize because of the plays that he made there and really stuffing a lot of the divisional opponents that he had. A couple solid postseason runs, but Dallas unable to ever reach that NFC Championship game and obviously the big game as well. So no offense, Cowboys fan, but his first year outside of Dallas, he ends up in the Super Bowl. And so that's a pretty incredible storyline. Playing in Hutchinson, having his JUCO years there, and obviously finding that out is pretty amazing. But also Jeremiah Farms, Asia, on New England, a guy who had spent a good amount of years here. He spent time at Friends, spent time with the Wichita Force. And he's a pretty fascinating story. A good friend of ours, Zach Martin, formerly sports director here at KSN, did a great story on him about a year or so ago about how he was pushing carts. And now all of a sudden he's had his number called in the NFL and he gets an opportunity to play in Santa Clara for a championship ring. So that's a pretty fascinating story. But a couple of names there for you guys to keep an eye on. One on Seattle, one obviously on New England. And you got a pretty cool story coming up at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock tonight.
Yes, we do. It's about Mac Brown, former quarterback at Baker University.
Right.
They're a little bit further north than us here in Wichita, but still local guy. When he was quarterback there, was player of the year in a program that was doing so well in the NAIA, still the winningest program in NAIA history, now getting his first chance coaching in a Super Bowl. So before he was with the Seahawks, he was also coaching with the Jets, had a great job there with Robert Saleh. So now he's currently a tight ends coach. And I spoke to Baker University, their coach. They remember Mac Brown coming back this past summer to speak to the students. So this is extra special for them to see somebody that took time out of their life to come visit them. And so we're looking forward to sharing those stories. And everyone on Facebook, so excited to see you all. I want to say hi to Jacob. He said hi, Asia and Michael. Seems like you guys are enjoying the commercials as well. So, gotta love the Super Bowl commercials. And then there's our guy, Jeff Herndon. He agrees. Jason Myers for MVP. He's put all the points on the board with these field goals so far. So it seems like it could turn out to be that way.
I would shout out the punters because the punters do the dirty work, but Myers is doing the legwork. So that right now is definitely the biggest storyline here. But I will say also, In terms of the commercials, something that we haven't really, I mean, I've been paying attention to the game. We've been kind of busy trying to get our 11 o'clock together, but there was a tearjerker earlier, and then there was one that was pretty funny that we had as well. So I don't know how to rate these. I would say probably a 7 out of 10 on commercials so far. If you've heard any of them, you got a number in your head?
So I have been struggling to focus on the commercials.
Yeah.
I wish I could, because that's one of my favorite parts of the Super Bowl. It's so interesting when you're working during the game. You kind of don't get to sit and really focus on them. But I definitely did glance up and see some fun things.
Yeah.
I saw Levi's commercial and something about Despicable Me I heard in my headphones. Some of the Minions.
Oh,
I heard that. So I know it's been entertaining. So I'd love to hear more about what commercials you guys are enjoying.
Yeah, the Lay's one I caught a little bit of, and that was a pretty emotionally moving, whatever that word is, commercial. But we're going to have a score prediction coming at you at the very end, so keep an eye on that as part of our Hot Topics segment. But we've got to move on and talk a little Wichita State. We've got a cool story coming up on our newscast about Mike Kennedy, the voice of the Shockers, in his final season. But we're going to keep this right now strictly to the court, because a big win for them on the road at Tulane, Asia. This was one that had quite a bit of anticipation. They're stringing it together again.
Yep.
We said this was a streaky team. Well, now they happen to be on the good end of that. And Dylan Battie, who's emerged as a leader for this group, all of a sudden leading the charge.
Incredible. 19-point performance, game high from Dylan Battie, followed by Karan Boyd with an 18-point double-double. He also had 11 rebounds, and now the Shockers have won 2 straight. They just came off a win over Charlotte that you're watching right there at the Roundhouse. Charlotte was the top team in the American Conference, and Wichita State had lost to them in double overtime on the road earlier in the season. So to return home and make those adjustments against a team they'd already faced before. This was their first conference rematch. And you saw, I mean, to see that game, it was 10-point win. It was a pretty dominant win in performance from this offense. Even found a 17-point lead. So to come off of that, I'm sure that boosts the momentum. I remember, though, after the game, Kenyon Giles was saying, we can't rely on momentum alone. We know we have to take it one opponent at a time. And they went down to Tulane and took care of business. And they weren't looking back. They weren't saying, oh, you know, we've got this momentum running. They said, we're going to go in and put in as much effort as we can once again. And they did that. They were already leading about the half, coming off of an early deficit, found a 5-point lead at the half, and then just dominated down the stretch. And they really seem to learn to limit mistakes and learn from these past games. And I think that's just a testament to their ability to adjust. And I think they really are going to soon be a threat in the American Conference.
Yeah, and we've been over this a couple times, how easy it is to get into the tournament in winning the American Conference based on placement. Dylan Battie, great game for him, obviously. Karan Boyd, lighten it up from beyond the arc. Tulane was interesting to me. We talked about this on Friday a little bit on our newscast, but Tulane's a team that's got a 5-man that can light it up from 3-point range. And that's a rarity. It's a rarity in the American Conference, and it's a rarity in the NCAA, where you've got so many guys that can spray you from anywhere on the court. And we talked with Paul Mills about that, and that was one thing he really emphasized when he was talking to his defense. And so good limiting him, but also really staying in control of this one for most of the game and being able to force a couple of key turnovers. In the highlights tonight, we're not going to spoil it yet, but in the highlights tonight, you're going to notice that turning defense into offense rather, and a couple of good points in transition. And you see Battie emerge as a favorite there. Okorafor generated a couple of turnovers on Tulane's end, able to kick it back the other way. Boyd and his speed. Oh my goodness.
Yes,
my goodness.
He's definitely a threat down low. He's been an incredible player getting points in the paint, and I think he's going to continue leading this offense. I mean, you got your big Will Berg, who's always there crashing the glass, so he's making plays offensive and defensively, and it's incredible. And I have to interrupt this amazing Wichita State conversation because
we got some news.
We were just told that Lady Gaga is joining Bad Bunny during the halftime show. And again, thank you all. Oh, I see we lost a couple viewers since we've been to the halftime show. It's okay. I don't blame you.
Yes.
But that's going to be a fun collaboration.
Yeah.
I was really curious to see who it would be.
Yeah, I remember she did the national anthem, I think about 8 years ago. And it was one of the most memorable. I'm serious. Like, it was amazing. And she's great. And that's going to make it for an interesting halftime show. So keep it here, please. You can watch that later. I'm sure it'll be clipped on YouTube. Exactly, yes. But getting back to Wichita State, obviously they need some Lady Gaga right now in their life. winning like she does. But I think right now, in particular, this is a great spot to be in for Paul Mills. And really riding the high today, coming back from New Orleans, he was talking about limiting distractions. And there's a lot going on.
I'm a little distracted.
Mardi Gras. Well, you got Mardi Gras in New Orleans, right?
Right.
That's coming up. You've got the partying and celebration from that. You've got the Super Bowl partying and celebration from that. So Mills was saying like he just had his guys completely turn off social media, completely eliminate it from their lives. And that wasn't a bad idea because they played like they were focused and they didn't need any distractions.
And now that they got that win, they're probably at their hotel watching Lady Gaga and Bad Bunny. So
and Bad Bunny.
Sure they're enjoying the halftime show and of course riding that 2-game win streak. So excited to see how Wichita State does. Multiple more rematches coming up down the stretch and just a great performance so far. This win against Tulane and then the win against Charlotte. Again, it's just momentum. You know, they haven't been perfect, but they're really making progress and it's showing. Yeah,
and coming up this Wednesday, we're going to bring you obviously highlights and post-game and all that good stuff right here on KSN. South Florida coming to town on the 11th. That's going to be a big game for the Shocks, trying to string together more wins and obviously move ahead in that placement, but that'll be a big game. You live. It'll be exciting.
I'm ready for it.
Always.
I'm ready for it. And there's another big game coming up.
One more big game.
Another team that's riding a 7-game winning streak.
Oh.
Kansas Jayhawks.
Tough to top that.
Easily NCAA tournament threat right now at this point in the season.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious as to where they're going to move in the AP poll because I think they're going to crack the top 10 easily.
Oh yeah.
And even after this weekend's win against Utah, I mean, which we kind of expected, to be honest. We're honest on here. We expected them to win against Utah. But moving ahead to this week, that's going to be Arizona #1. Yeah. That is going to be great. So very excited to see what happens here. Darren Peterson, not the leading scorer, but clocked in some good minutes in that game. So, you know, you still have yourself quite the matchup. But, yeah, we're going to just keep enjoying this one and see how they do against #1. They've had a good track record against top 5 teams.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, they've been incredible, and Flory Badunga was an incredible athlete in this game against Utah. He had a double, 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 blocks. So I mean, just an incredible performance by him. And I'm so excited to see how this team does. I mean, 7 wins is a really great job, and I think this team is really showing what they're capable of. I mean, of course, Darren Peterson's there. They got Trey White. They just have Melvin Council Jr. played a huge role in this win, too. I mean, it was really a well-spread offensive effort, and I'm very, very ready to see how they do against the top team in the nation. I think it's going to be tough, but if you remember, they've already beat 2 ranked teams. They beat BYU. They beat Texas Tech. I mean, they've shown how competitive we are. So I think they're going to do a great job coming up against Arizona, but it's definitely going to be one to watch. Yeah, and the Iowa State game, this gives me a little bit of flashbacks. I don't know if they're going to blow them out, but this one will be on the home floor. This one will be pretty cool. But right now you've got Badunga, 17 points, Trey White right behind him with 16. The team is healthy. I need a little bit more production off the bench. That's one thing that's really kind of getting me a little bit here. So those are I think a little bit of a pressure on Bill Self to sort of get that corrected. But I think at this point, he has easily found himself in the top 10 in the AP poll, at least. Maybe he cracks the top 5 this week and they feel a little bit more ambitious. We'll see. But these ranked wins are just lighting up the Associated Press and the voters and everybody else who's been a part of this. Yeah, I mean, they absolutely are. I think this is going to be very valuable for them in their seeding as they're looking ahead to the tournament. Still have the Big 12 tournament as well, and I think they could be a threat to win that. But regardless, I think they're going to be playing in the postseason and playing for a championship the way that these last 7 wins have gone. Wow. So they're doing a great job. And there's not a whole lot left in the season. I mean, you've got maybe a few more games before tournament play starts in mid-March. So we have played the crux of this season. I mean, that's even wild to even think about. We're sitting here right now approaching the middle part of February. Yeah. Because February is a short month, and you're running out of games to play. Exactly. So I think KU is going to be fine. And honestly, if you're feeling ambitious, write what ranking you think in the comments.
what KU is going to be on Monday, because I think I think they're going to crack the top 10 at least. Maybe if you're feeling ambitious, you put them in at the top 5. But the way they played Iowa State, that's going to factor in from several weeks ago, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that one too as well.
Yeah, and how they play against Arizona. I think if it's a loss, well, the ranking will come out in the morning, but if it's a loss, I think they still should be in good shape, depending upon how they play. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout loss if KU does in fact lose. I don't think it's going to be a blowout win, though, if KU does in fact win. So you're in for a good one at Allen Fieldhouse.
And I think it's going to be interesting depending on how many minutes Darren Peterson gets, because we saw him play over 30 minutes for the first time this season, just a couple games ago. And he was very competitive also against BYU when you put him up against AJ DeBonsta. So I think when he gets that time on the court and it's a game that he knows he wants to win, he's definitely a clutch player for the Jayhawks. And he's not the only clutch player, but he's definitely one to note depending on how much time he steps in the floor. I think that might play a huge role in how they're going to do against the top team in the nation in Arizona.
I think you heard us talking, because the day that we said that AJ could overtake him in the top of the draft, he decided to have one of the wildest dunks I've ever seen. So to me, that is where I think he's kind of cemented himself. I mean, the load management for himself. I mean, he's dealt with some cramping, he's dealt with Achilles issues, calf issues. He's had a rough year in terms of injuries, but you can tell he's eager. He wants to get back on the floor, and he's strung together a couple of 30-plus minute games that he's had, and he is steady in the scoring column. I mean, he's been a dominant threat. The game against Texas Tech, where he was pretty quiet in that first half, came out in the second half, hit 2 of the biggest shots of KU season to pull out and gut out that win. So Peterson, I think, is on a high rise, and I think he's going to have a good performance against Arizona. And
I mentioned this yesterday. It's a little sad that our 2 Big 12 teams are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum of the Big 12 right now.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And we got to show love to K-State, but it has just not been what we've needed to see so far, at least at this juncture of the season. A lot of struggles, and even this past weekend, a tough one to TCU, where they actually played them pretty well, just couldn't close it out in the second half.
That was so frustrating, because they had an 18-point lead in the first half, and near the end of the first, it really got cut down to just 4 points. And there was just turnovers. There was a few mistakes that Coach Jerome Tang mentioned in the press conference, but it's frustrating to see these close wins. I mean, even down through the second half, it was a game of runs, basically. I mean, both teams had a chance, but it was that last part, or actually it wasn't really a game of runs. Actually, K-State led until the last few seconds, but it was TCU that was making those big efforts to close the gap, and they finished the game on a 7-0 run. It was just a trio of free throws at the end of the game that allowed the Horned Frogs to pull ahead. And once again, the Wildcats are suffering a extremely narrow loss, just 2-point loss, and it's so frustrating when you see their team just this close, just tasting the victory, and then just falling just short. So of course we want to see them finish stronger. They have incredible players. They got PJ Haggerty. They have a really talented offense, and it's just a bunch of heartbreakers. And of course we're hoping to see things start to turn around for K-State, but at the same time, the focus might really just be on next season.
Yeah, and that's not something you want to hear if you're Jerome Tang. We'll get on him in a second, but PJ Haggerty, 30 points, 14 to 24, so a solid game from him. The team gets Kamari McGriff back. They limit his minutes, and they needed to limit his minutes because he's coming back from injury. Abdi Bashir's still out with that stress fracture. That's getting treated. We know that much. But K-State, the issue is, and you got to be honest, you got to be honest, at what point do we look at the coaching here? Because this is not the first time we've been down this road where they have lost a really tight contest and they've just broken in the last 3 minutes. And they were able to maintain a very solid lead in this game. We saw a couple games ago they really struggled and were never in it, Iowa State. But I look at the West Virginia game and I look at this game. And to me, I think coaching is an issue here. I'm not saying Jerome Tang should be fired. I'm not going to necessarily go in on that. But I think the players are not necessarily to blame for how some of these games are panning out. It is very frustrating for the fan base, and it's very frustrating for a lot of these guys who have been here because they get the right transfers. And Tang was confident, I agree, they have the right pieces on this roster. Haggerty is a star player. There is no questioning that whatsoever. But I think at some point in time, there has to be a serious evaluation on what's going on with Jerome Tang right now, because they're unable to close these games out, and that to me is indicative of coaching, at least from what I have experienced.
Yeah, and I think there are some internal things that are going on that aren't being spoken of about K-State right now. I mean, Coach Tang said, you guys don't know what this team has gone through,
Right.
so I'm not really sure what's going on kind of behind the scenes. This team seems like they're really fighting, really struggling. Of course, you talked about the players that they've been missing, so there's been a lot of change and a lot of adjustments going on internally, and I think that makes it a little harder to judge them when we're not quite sure exactly what's going on. So obviously hoping for the best still doesn't mean that we might not have to address the coaching staff coming up this next season, because the Big 12 is not an easy conference and they've got to be competitive one way or another, no excuses about it. So of course we want to see success for K-State, we want to see things go up, but it's getting a little frustrating, and they still got to finish out the rest of this season, but hoping that things start to turn around.
Sitting at the bottom right now with Utah, which is not a position you want to be in. So this is going to be something to look ahead to in the offseason and something to keep an eye on at this juncture in time. But right now, if you're K-State, I think moving forward, play it strong, see what you can get out of this, and then looking into conference play, as I said, coming up, that's obviously something to really bank on as well. Ranking, I think, right now at least, is out of the equation. But TCU, they got to move on from that. On a more positive note, we've got something fun coming up as part of our, we always do, our Hot Topics segment. And in this one, I'm going to say we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is this. Asia, I'm going to give you the floor. What in the world do you think the final score of this Super Bowl is going to be? Tough question, judging by what we have seen so far. I'm putting 35 on the clock for you.
Well, I certainly hope it's not 9-0. I hope it's not a shutout in any regard. So I think the Seahawks still, I'm expecting them to pull ahead. I'm going to give it maybe about like a 21-9 final score. I think the Patriots are going to find the end zone at least once, and I think it's going to be Sam Darnold, though, and I think the Seahawks are going to pull this one off and get their revenge from Super Bowl 15 that they've been waiting for.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything just yet, but if you were to say, okay, when does roughly anybody find pay dirt in this game? When does anybody crack the end zone? What quarter and what time frame?
Third quarter. Third quarter, first 5 minutes. I think they're going to come out that locker room firing.
All right, my turn, and I got an interesting one. I think Seattle may blank New England in this game. I'm going to say 23-0. I think May cracks a little bit, throws a pick. One of them is going to be a pick six because they've been backed up. They've had good field position, and they've had really bad field position. I think New England is going to be backed up to their own end zone, probably the 5-yard line, and you're going to see something wacky there with Seattle's defense. And I think Kenneth Walker finds the end zone for the Seahawks. I think Sam Darnold does not throw a touchdown pass, and I don't think Drake May throws a touchdown pass.
I think Sam Darnold's going to have a touchdown. I don't think it's going to be a shutout. That would be pretty underwhelming.
You think I'm crazy, don't you?
I think you're bold.
Yes,
bold prediction right there.
Yes.
Maybe a Seahawks fan. I didn't know that about you.
Not a Seahawks fan, but I am pulling for them in this game. As I said, the Darnold story is incredible. Don't think he's going to be MVP, though. I think there's more discussions on what could happen there. Could go to the defense, could go to Walker, who's already had himself a nice game with his 94 yards. Curious as to what you, our viewers, think in the comments section. Put out a score prediction. Maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe Asia's dead wrong. We don't know.
Or maybe I'm right.
Maybe she's right, yes. Or maybe I'm right. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I'm taking a shot.
Let us know your predictions. We're excited for it.
I'm taking a shot.
Stick with KSN because we have Super Bowl, and then afterwards, lots of post-game excitement on KSN after the game as well.
And Asia and myself will bring that for you. She's on Sports Tonight, so plenty of shocker highlights and a really cool story on Mike Kennedy and some local athletes. Kansans making it up to Super Bowl 60. Very excited to bring it to you on KSN News tonight, late edition. But for now, thank you for joining us on another episode of Double Coverage. We'll see you again next Thursday, same place, different time, 3 o'clock. Thanks so much for joining us.